Okay, everyone. The debt ceiling issue behind us, the challenge that lies ahead is to have some semblance of a regular appropriations process. We've got the Farm Bill, important to a whole lot of my members. It's going to require a lot of bipartisan cooperation to do what we need to do in the coming months. The Senate hasn't operated that way for quite a while, so it'll be interesting to see how we do it. Senator Collins is focused like a laser on getting the appropriations process as normal as possible. And all of that leads to my major concern. Look, I supported the Biden-McCarthy deal, but I was not happy with the defense number. The defense number is totally inadequate to meet the challenges that we have in Asia, not to mention Ukraine. I'm not sure at this point how to fix it, but it's a problem, a serious problem that hopefully we'll find some way in the course of the year to address.
I've spoken at length in the past about the Biden administration's basic lack of competence when it comes to just running things in a competent way. And obviously the perhaps biggest example of that is the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. But you can look at the inflation crisis, you can look at the failure to secure the southern border. And I think most people, when they vote for people, particularly a president, they want somebody who's just going to exercise a basic level of competence when it comes to running the government. And this week we're dealing with 3 more unqualified nominees that are up before the Senate, including one, a district court judge nominee, who has basically called the Electoral College and the United States Senate undemocratic institutions. So it's just the hits just keep coming with this administration. They keep putting people up here. And now we're told that they're going to take another run at trying to put Julie Su in as Secretary of Labor. And let me just remind people of her record as the Labor Commissioner in the state of California, where they paid out $31 billion in fraudulent UI claims, and their error rate during the first 6 months of the pandemic was 36.6%. 36.6% of all those claims that were paid out were fraudulent. Bill Cassidy, who is the chairman of the Help Committee here in the Senate, or I should say the ranking member of the Help Committee here in the Senate, has done a lot of good research on her record and discovered, too, that she tried to obstruct an ICE investigation by authorizing the hiding of illegal immigrants in taxpayer-funded office space. This is a nominee who shouldn't have been nominated in the first place, but should not be confirmed by the United States Senate, and is another example of the basic lack of competence we see from this administration when it comes to the people that they try and put in important positions.
Well, many Americans view the Biden administration as working against them rather than working for them. And with the Biden administration teaming up with the climate extremists, it's making it even worse on American energy. And the minor changes that were adopted in terms of permitting during this debt ceiling vote, they're not going to do what the Americans need in terms of energy. People know what they want. They want energy that is available, affordable, and reliable. And yet Joe Biden has now commanded the EPA to prioritize climate change over energy that is available, reliable, or affordable. The EPA is now the evil empire as it attacks American energy prosperity, American energy production. The EPA is aggressively attempting to shut down coal-fired power plants, natural gas-fired power plants, while there is no other source of energy to replace it. Trying to shut down something that has worked for a long, long time when there is nothing available to replace it is foolish. It's harmful. Even the bipartisan members of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission have all testified in the Senate that this is undermining the grid of power in the United States, and it is their job to look after the grid. All across the country, we're seeing areas, and this is a chart of summer grid reliability risk, elevated risk, large swaths of the country, elevated risk to our grid as a result of the administration, and what the President is doing is making it worse. The EPA, with their incredibly painful regulations, is undermining our ability, sabotaging American energy. And the American public are going to be paying the price and suffering the pain. If you want to keep the lights on, you want to keep the country secure, you need affordable, reliable baseline power. And that's why every Republican on the Senate Energy Committee has joined me as co-sponsors of a permitting reform bill called the SPUR Act. And it unleashes all American energy, which is exactly what we need for affordable, available, and reliable energy for our nation.
Washington's spending has really been very reckless and out of control. And so far, I've been able to track down about $1.3 billion that have gone towards worthless pet projects with our adversaries overseas, Russia and China. And folks, I have the receipts, and I'll just give you a couple of examples of this egregious spending, again, in Russia and China. The first one is over $2 million of risky research that have gone where? To the Wuhan Institute of Virology. We're very familiar with that, but the price tag is higher than we originally anticipated. And that research was done with fear in mice and bats there, where they were experimenting with the coronavirus, and we see how all of that ended up. Again, that was U.S. taxpayer dollars that went to China. Now, in Russia, what we have tracked down is about $770,000 that went to research putting cats on treadmills. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you give me $770,000, I'm happy to get on a treadmill right here in the United States of America. But yes, we continue to send money overseas to our adversaries, Russia, China. So far, again, we've unearthed about $1.3 billion. And after the debate we had last week with the debt ceiling, no wonder our taxpayers are angry when we see dollars going to these worthless projects, to the people around the world that hate us the most. Again, Russia and China. So I'm trying to track down more dollars that we have spent wastefully with our adversaries, but I do have a solution, and that is a bill that I am introducing. It's called the TRACS Act, and it would force our federal government to track those dollars that are going to Russia and China, provide transparency. Hopefully we can prevent that kind of spending in the future.
Well, thank you all for being here. And last week, it's sort of slow this week, which is kind of nice after last week. But with the debt ceiling bill, which I voted for as well, had, I think, a lot of good solutions in it. And one of those that's particular to me is the permitting reform coupled with the Mountain Valley Pipeline. Within days, we will see thousands of West Virginians and others who are going to be constructing the remaining 5% of the pipeline that's still remaining. We'll see product beginning to flow at the beginning of the year, millions of dollars going into the tax revenues of West Virginia and Virginia. And so I'm very pleased that a pipeline that's been in the making for 8 years has been permitted by just about everybody, if not everybody, once or twice, is now going to be moving and making our eastern seaboard more energy secure. So there's another challenge in that bill. The challenge is, and the leader spoke to it, is the 12 appropriations bills that have yet to be passed. I'm a member of the Appropriations Committee. I am the ranking member on the Health Subcommittee, one of the largest bills that we will be considering. We, as members of the Appropriations Committee, are welcoming the challenge of writing bills that are actually going to get onto the floor. We have debate. We have member input from everybody, from all areas of the country, both Republicans and Democrats, to try to forge the compromise that we desperately need. And we know with the leadership of Senator Collins, for us Republicans, we couldn't be in better hands. She's deeply committed to this. She knows the process, and as we all know, she does her homework much more deeply than any other member that I know. And so if there's a will, there's a way, and she has a lot of will as along with the rest of us. It's in our best interest as a country. It's in our best interest as institutions to get back on track. And I'm certainly committed to it, and I believe this body's committed to it as well.
If you woke up in Washington, D.C. this morning, you might have awakened to the sound of birds coughing. You're all getting a first-hand account and experience of the smoky summers that we have out west in places like Montana. And it gets old real fast. Now, in this case, it's wildfires in Canada that are causing the smoke to hover over New York and coming down here in the Washington, D.C. area. So folks on the East Coast are as sick and tired of breathing the smoke as Montanans are during the summer months. Unfortunately, this is what happens when you have more lawyers in your forest crawling around versus loggers, and when your forests aren't managed properly. Washington bureaucrats and the court system in our country continue to give us policies that can result in air quality like this. But there's good news. We have a fix for this. There is a remedy. We need to fully and permanently reverse the disastrous Ninth Circuit Cottonwood decision. This is a decision from 8 years ago that we are still trying to make right. Now, here's the good news. The past 3 administrations, sportsman groups, conservation groups have supported this fix. The support is broad, it's bipartisan. In fact, it passed most recently through the ENR committee by a voice vote. This would return some common sense forest management that will help with improving watersheds, improving wildlife, reducing risk of wildfires, and it's a great thing for workers, getting the timber industry back into the forests and supplying badly needed building materials. The bottom line is this: we either better manage our forests or our forests manage us.
How can you ensure that Congress will, in fact, pass another Ukraine supplemental when the Speaker has said that he's opposed to a Ukraine supplemental?
Well, all I can tell you at this particular point is defense is radically underfunded related to the Chinese threat, and Ukraine probably will need additional assistance. So figuring out how to do this is going to be a challenge.
Have you spoken to the Speaker about this yet?
Mr. Lee, do you have any comment on the merger between the PGA and Live Golf? Do you think this is something that Congress should look into in terms of its oversight, especially given Live Golf's connection to Saudi Arabia?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time picking up what you said.
The merger between the two big golf leagues, the PGA and Live Golf. The Live Golf is associated with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Is that something Congress should look into?
Look, I don't really have anything to say about that. It's strikes me as not a governmental concern.
On AI, Majority Leader Schumer has put together this bipartisan task force, and they are going to have briefings for all senators on AI. What are your concerns as it relates to AI?
Repeat that again.
On AI, are you concerned at all about artificial intelligence, and what are your concerns related to that? How should Congress address it?
What is my concern about?
Artificial intelligence.
About what? I had a hard time hearing your voice. Sorry about
On artificial intelligence?
that. AI?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think everybody's concerned about AI. The issue is, what, if any, role does the government have to play here? We did the CHIPS bill last year, and part of that money is dedicated to AI. It could be a brave new world, and it's going to be interesting to see what role, if any, the government plays in sorting all that out.